Today, we continue recommending the 2015 slasher horror film, Charlie's Farm. This horror film unfolds on a blood-soaked inland wilderness stage, weaving a chilling story of family brutality, collective guilt, and monstrous vengeance. Rumors persist of a cursed farm deep within Australia's vast, unforgiving outback. This place is synonymous with bloodshed and terror, the starting point of countless nightmares. Back in the 1980s, the farm owners, John and his wife Meredith, ruled their land with extreme violence, specifically targeting and murdering travelers who trespassed, even using their bodies as fertilizer for crops. For years, the terrified villagers endured in silence, until finally rallying into an angry mob that beat the demonic couple to death. Though in the chaos, their intellectually disabled son Charlie managed to escape. Now, let's follow a group of fearless yet naive young adults as they embark on this unforgettable journey of terror. 30 years later, several curious and adventurous backpackers arrive to explore this infamous, cursed farm. What they don't know is that a massive, mysterious killer now resides there. After getting separated on the farm, Peter sees his girlfriend, who asks where the others have gone.
Keep it down, or we're next. I think
And this terrifying moment sets the stage for the horror that's about to unfold. The scene shifts to a private villa somewhere in Australia. Donkey and Jason are the villa's owners, both avid travelers and adventure seekers. Feeling bored, the two discuss where to go for their next vacation getaway. Overhearing talk of a trip, Natasha says she wants to bring her friend along, and after getting her boyfriend Jason's permission, she excitedly calls Melanie. Seeing this, Donkey remarks that Natasha has just found him a companion. Suddenly inspired, Donkey declares he knows the perfect place, mentioning he recently heard from a friend about an incredibly thrilling farm out west, claiming that exploring and visiting there would be far more exciting than going anywhere else. They could not only go horseback riding, fishing, and exploring, but also camp and discover many other interesting things. Within minutes, Melanie arrives at Donkey's villa after getting the message. Donkey is visibly delighted at the sight of the beautiful woman. After packing a few essentials, they set off for the mysterious location in the west. Soon, they are speeding down a desolate road in their car, surrounded by endless barren landscapes, the hot air thick with an unsettling atmosphere. Hours later, they reach a small town, planning to stop at a local pub to restock supplies and ask for directions to the farm. The atmosphere inside the pub is eerie and oppressive. Locals react with fear and concern upon hearing they plan to visit Charlie's farm. A village elder named Old Blue kindly warns them not to go, stressing the extreme danger and the likely presence of a violent madman. But Donkey and his group not only ignore the warning, they also clash with another patron who mocks them. This sudden confrontation escalates the already tense situation. The patron's intent was actually to scare them off, given the farm's horrific past. However, Donkey misinterpreted it, thinking the locals doubted their courage to visit the scary farm. Donkey boasts there's nowhere they wouldn't dare to go. After the argument, the furious patron changes his mind and points them in the direction. Leaving the pub, they decide to press on. Not far down the road, they set up camp around a fire to rest. Natasha and Melanie sense that this trip seems to hold a secret. Under their pressure, Donkey finally reveals the terrifying story of Charlie's farm. He explains he heard it from his childhood friend. It happened in the 1980s. John and his wife Meredith were a couple living on the farm. Outwardly, they appeared to be ordinary farmers, but secretly, they were monstrous killers and cannibals. Backpackers kept vanishing locally, and the culprits were this couple, who brutally murdered and consumed these innocent victims. Finally, led by Old Blue, the local residents uncovered their crimes, and an angry mob confronted them at the farm. In the violent clash, Old Blue shot and killed John. His wife Meredith fled in panic with their mentally disabled son Charlie. Meredith hid Charlie before she was captured herself. She was then seized by the mob, subjected to interrogation and beatings, and ultimately died at their hands. After witnessing all this, Charlie vanished without a trace, Everyone assumed he was dead too, but terrifying legends about him persisted across the land. After finishing the story, Donkey says he only heard it from a good buddy, adding he's genuinely curious if it's true, which is why he wanted to check out the farm. Hearing this, the others fall silent, filled with curiosity about the farm, thinking there's no harm in going to see it. After agreeing, they prepare to head out first thing tomorrow morning. Time quickly passes, and the next morning, after packing up, they get ready to continue towards the mysterious farm. By now, they are getting closer to the farm, and their curiosity has temporarily conquered all fear. However, they haven't driven far before it seems they've gotten lost near the farm. Jason asks Donkey why they haven't found the place, as the people in the pub gave directions last night. Donkey admits he can't remember the name of the village. Eager to find the farm, Jason decides to call their friend Tony, a boxer, for help. Tony is also Natasha's closest friend, and Natasha often trains at his boxing gym, so Tony always looks out for her. Tony warns them to be extremely careful upon learning they're going to Charlie's farm because that farm is vast and terrifying, telling Jason that if something happens there, the police might not even investigate the place. However, with Tony's guidance, they finally find the mysterious and eerie farm. Looking at the dilapidated, overgrown farm before them, a chill runs down their spines, yet they muster the courage to proceed on foot towards the farmhouse. Entering the farmhouse, they are met by a stale, rotting smell. The walls are thick with dust and cobwebs. Furniture lies overturned, as if forgotten by time. Exploring the farm, they find old, rusted farming tools, everyday items, and blood-stained traces silently telling the horrific stories of the past. Just as they are engrossed in the thrill of exploration, Melanie discovers a tattered teddy bear in a corner, her intuition telling her it might have been Charlie's childhood toy. Out of curiosity, she decides to keep it. Exhausted, the group falls asleep inside the farmhouse. Melanie suddenly jolts awake from her sleep, vaguely seeing a massive, terrifying figure looming over them. The figure is impossibly tall, its silhouette distorted, radiating an aura of pure dread. But when Melanie blinked again, the figure vanished. She thought it was just a terrible nightmare and went back to sleep, yet the true nightmare was only just beginning. The next morning, as sunlight bathes the farm, two more backpackers, Gordon and Alyssa, arrive. Like Jason and his group, they too were drawn by the terrifying legend of Charlie's farm. The difference is, they arrived a couple of days earlier with several other backpackers, but Gordon now can't find them. The companions they are looking for are Peter and the others from the beginning. Gordon asks Jason's group if they've seen the other backpackers here. Jason and Donkey say they only arrived yesterday and haven't seen anyone else. With no other option, Gordon decides to join their group, figuring safety lies in numbers for exploring this place, and they can watch out for each other. With Gordon and Alyssa joining, the exploration team instantly becomes 6 people. To make the exploration more interesting, everyone decides to split up and investigate different corners of the farm. Because the farm is simply too vast, staying together would mean they'd never finish exploring it. Donkey and Melanie's pair see a deep pit near the farm emitting a foul stench. They assume it's dead rats and pay it no mind. What they don't know is that something truly horrifying lies beneath. Later, they come to a creek. Seeing the clear water, Donkey decides to take a cool bath. Seeing Donkey getting ready to enter the water, Melanie also decides to go for a swim. Meanwhile, Gordon and his girlfriend arrive at what seems like an abandoned barn. It's dark, damp, and filled with an eerie atmosphere. They cautiously enter the barn, unaware that danger is closing in step by step. Seeing a bed and blankets inside, they guess someone might live there. Not wanting to cause trouble, they decide to leave. Suddenly, a figure charges out of the darkness, wielding a sharp axe, eyes filled with murderous intent. Before Gordon and Alyssa could react, the figure swung his axe and drove it deep into Gordon's chest. Blood gushed out, and Gordon died on the spot. The killer was Charlie, who had been hiding all these years. Witnessing this horror, Alyssa screams in terror and tries to flee. But Charlie wouldn't let her escape easily. He found Alyssa hiding in a corner of the barn. After catching Alyssa, Charlie drags her to a tractor and violently slams her head against it, knocking her unconscious. To make her death quick, Charlie places her head near the tractor's wheel. Charlie then pushes the tractor wheel with all his might, trapping Alyssa's head underneath it before jumping onto the tractor with full force. A sickening crunch echoed. Gordon and Alyssa met their end in the killer's farm, victims of their own curiosity. Unaware of this, Jason takes Natasha to a rundown shack. Wanting to see if there's anything interesting inside, Jason decides to investigate. Natasha thinks it's too dark inside and suggests waiting by the door. Meanwhile, back home, Tony finds his wife and tells her about Natasha going to the farm. Tony adds that he's still a bit worried about Natasha, as he always thinks of her like a little sister. But his wife says Natasha is an adult, and they said they'd be back in 2 days. Tony still wants to check on them. He asks his wife to come, but she declines, so Tony heads to the farm alone. Down by the creek, Donkey and Melanie are about to enjoy some time alone when Melanie spots someone watching them from the dam. That someone was Charlie, who had just come from the barn. At this moment, they don't realize the hulking figure before them is a merciless killer. Seeing him, Donkey assumes the large man has mental issues and approaches to confront Charlie. But without a word, Charlie slashed off Donkey's private parts with a large machete and shoved them down his throat, killing him. In the water, Melanie realizes Charlie is a murderer and flees in the opposite direction. But she has no idea that despite his size, Charlie can run with shocking speed. Even with a head start, Charlie quickly catches up to her. After catching Melanie, Charlie pins her to the ground and decisively ends her life. Soon, evening falls. Natasha has been waiting outside the old shack for a long time. Not seeing Jason emerge, a sense of unease prompts her to go inside and check. Tony, now arriving at the farm, searches their campsite but finds no one after looking for a while. Natasha, having just entered the shack, sees a figure in the pitch-black room and assumes it's Jason, about to call out to him. Jason urgently calls out to stop Natasha. Natasha thinks Jason is playing a prank on her. Jason quickly explains that when he entered, he saw the tall man wandering around with a knife, so he hid here out of fear. Tony, still unable to find Natasha, now arrives at the dilapidated shack. The room is extremely dark. Tony only sees a silhouette and, assuming it's Jason, asks where Natasha is. Hearing the voice, Charlie remains silent, slowly moving toward him.
Okay, all right. Calm down.
Tony confronts Charlie directly, and a fierce struggle erupts between them. Though Tony is a skilled boxer, Charlie is massive, immensely strong, and exceptionally brutal. After a vicious fight, Charlie gains the upper hand. Seeing this, Jason grabs a weapon to help. Jason slashes Charlie with a machete, but it causes no injury. Charlie then grabs Jason and slits his throat. Jason collapses powerless after his throat is cut, dying right before Natasha's eyes. Witnessing both Jason and Tony die at Charlie's hands, Natasha turns and flees in terror. But Charlie has no intention of letting her escape, pursuing her relentlessly. Luckily, Natasha soon spots Tony's car not far ahead. Seeing hope, she quickly scrambles into the vehicle. But Natasha searches frantically and cannot find the keys. Even worse, Charlie reaches the car, jumps onto the roof, and stomps violently with all his weight. Trapped inside, Natasha faints from sheer terror. When she awakens, she finds herself in an underground tunnel, surrounded by a rotting stench. Looking around, she discovers it's piled with the bodies of Charlie's past victims. Some corpses are decayed beyond recognition, others frozen in expressions of agony, creating a bone-chilling sight. This tunnel is the very source of the foul odor Donkey's group noticed earlier. Natasha finds a weak spot in the crate, trapping her, and struggles desperately. Finally breaking free, she crawls out of the crate. She finds a passage in the chamber and runs for her life along it, luckily emerging from an opening. Escaping, Natasha encounters Old Blue, who had warned them at the pub. Seeing Natasha's disheveled state, Old Blue knows something is terribly wrong and decides to help her escape. They haven't run far when Charlie catches up. Charlie swings his axe, burying it deep into Old Blue's back. Old Blue screams and falls dead on the spot. Terrified, Natasha grabs Old Blue's fallen rifle and fires at Charlie, hitting him squarely in the chest. Charlie staggers, then collapses to the ground. Natasha considers firing again, but finds the rifle jammed. After confirming Charlie shows no signs of life, she runs toward Old Blue's pickup truck. Just as she grabs the keys by the truck, a noise suddenly sounds behind her. Natasha whirls around in horror to see Charlie standing again, eyes blazing with rage and murderous intent. Charlie charges at Natasha, pins her against the truck, and forcefully drives the rifle into her body. The rifle pierces through Natasha, her blood staining the vehicle. Charlie gazes at Natasha's lifeless form, a twisted smile spreading across his face. He picks up her corpse and slowly walks back to his farm, as if declaring his absolute dominion over this land. Ultimately, Charlie does not die. He remains on this cursed land, awaiting the next group of adventurers to continue his bloody slaughter. The terrifying legend of Charlie's farm will endure forever, a lingering shadow in people's minds. This film crafts a suffocating horror atmosphere through its graphic violence and intense, suspenseful plot. It exposes humanity's darkness and cruelty while revealing our fragility and helplessness when facing the unknown. Charlie's farm is like an inescapable nightmare, devouring all who dare enter. Well, that concludes today's story. If you have any thoughts about this film, feel free to share them in the comments. See you next time.